Alright. Hopefully this stream is starting. Should be. Alright. Okay. Stream is up. And it's just being a little bit slow on my side. And that's just me. So. A little bit slow on my side. Alright. So I'm muting this. And we're going to begin reading some stories today. First thing first, that little Eevee in the top is by Peeking Boo at DeviantArt. All credit of that goes to him. So let's begin with our first story, The Killer in the Back Seat, an urban legend. One night, a woman went out for drinks with her girlfriends. She left the bar very late at night, got in a car, and onto the deserted highway. After a few minutes, she noticed a lone pair of headlights in her rearview mirror, approaching at a pace just slightly quicker than hers. As the car pulled up behind her, she glanced and saw the turn signal on. The car was going to pass, when suddenly it swerved back behind her, pulled up dangerously close to her headlights, and the brights flashed. Now she was getting nervous. The lights dimmed for a moment, and then the brights came back on and the car behind her surged forward. The frightened woman struggled to keep her eyes on the road and fought the urge to look at the car behind her. Finally, her exit approached, but the car continued to follow, flashing the brights periodically. Through every stoplight and turn, it followed her until she pulled into her driveway. She figured her only hope was to make a mad dash, enter the house, and call the police. As she flew from the car, so did the driver of the car behind her, and he screamed, "Lock the door and call the police! Call 911! When the police arrived, the horrible truth was finally revealed to the woman. The man in the car had been trying to save her. As he pulled up behind her and his headlights illuminated her car, he saw the silhouette of a man with a butcher knife rising up from the back seat to stab her. So he flashed his brights and the figure crouched back down. The moral of the story: always check the back seat. So that was just to get it started. And the next stories are actually going to be even creepier than that. Let's see. Next is the creepypasta of The Slender Man. Alright. The reading time for this should be roughly 4 minutes, so a little bit longer than the other one. After waking up with a jolt, the girl laid in bed a few seconds longer. Reaching over to switch on her bedside lamp, she tried to remember exactly where I saw her sweet slumber away. When she couldn't, the brunette swung her legs over the side of the bed and heaved herself up. Checking the time on the phone, she snored when she saw it was midnight, the witching hour. Knowing that sleep would only evade her, she left her bedroom for the kitchen, a good cup of coffee on her mind. As she passed by her front door, a chill spread like liquid fire down her spine. It's only winter, she told herself, focusing again on the coffee plan. Measuring out scoops, water, and preparing her cup kept her occupied, but as the dark liquid boiled, she had nothing left to keep her mind from wandering off. The chill returned, and she couldn't help but glance behind her to the front door. It stood there innocently enough, just like always. The deadbolt was still in place, and she could see nothing amiss with it. Turning back to her coffee, she did her best to forget about the feeling. With her cup in hand, she started back toward her bedroom. As she walked by the front door, she decided that a quick glance out of the peephole would help calm her restless mind. The chill worsened with each step she took towards the door and further away from the safety and warmth of her blankets. She pressed her empty hand against the cold metal door and took a deep breath before leading her eye to the peephole. At first, she could only see an inky blackness, and somehow seemed to swirl in itself. When she blinked in surprise, the void melted away. She wished it hadn't. In its place, there stood what she could only guess was once a man. The limbs were long and inhumanly awkward, with bulky joints branching off into several arms, not unlike the branches of a tree. The creature was draped in a black suit, somehow making Man King? It says Man King. Somehow making the thing more nightmarish to her. The icing on the proverbial cake, however, was what passed as the hellish thing's face. Hellish thing's face. It was as though her mind blurred the ghastly visage to spare herself further shock and horror. She shoved herself away from the door, and her hand still pressed against it. The scalding mug of coffee fell, the liquid burning her bare legs as she fell backwards and tried to crawl away from the door. She knew somehow that her mind hadn't been playing tricks on her. As she walked away from the door, she watched as tendrils as black as the void she first saw snake around through the cracks. The girl was trapped between her instinct to flee and the gut feeling to not turn her back on the door. When the door jolted, the urge to flee overcame her, and she slipped in the burning liquid as she tried to make it to her room. She knew deep down that she was trapping herself in a corner, but she had to get away from the door. The girl was halfway down the hallway when she heard a previously locked door creep open. She screamed and slipped into a wall, cracking her chin on it and stunning her. After that, there was only blackness. Nicole? Nicole! A warm male voice snapped the woman out of her trance. As she turned around, she was met by one of her sister's doctors. She nodded, not sure if she should say anything, or even if she could find her voice if she didn't have something to say. That morning, she had gotten an urgent phone call from the hospital, saying that her sister, Lindsay, was there. Before they had even let her see her, the doctor had pulled her off to the side and insisted that they talk to her about what might have happened. Phrases like self-inflicted and assault had been thrown around, and Nicole felt her mind reel. She still hadn't fully understood what they had been saying until she saw Lindsay with her own eyes. Her little sister had a bandage wrapped around her head, covering both of her ears as well as her eyes. She said it was to keep her now deadened eyes from drying out and to try to keep infection out of the wounds Lindsay had made to her ears. The doctor had guessed that either she or someone else had jammed a pencil into them to keep her off balance or to deafen herself against something. There was the mix of first and second degree burns on her head, legs, and feet, from what was assumed to be the coffee her neighbors found slipped all over the entry of her apartment. As Nicole walked into her sister's hospital room the first time, she thought she had spied the silhouette of a man in the window, though that she knew was impossible. Her sister's room was on the third story of the hospital. And that was the story of Slender Man. What do I get from all of this? Don't trust the little Slender Man. He's not very nice, if I may say so myself. This third story for today is called Jeff the Killer. This is about 15 minutes of reading time. Excerpt from local newspaper. Ominous unknown killer is still at large. After weeks of unexplained murder, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After no evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. I had a bad dream, and I woke up in the middle of the night, says the boy. I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had a strange feeling, like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There, in the little ray of light, illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. They weren't regular eyes. They were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me. That's when I saw his mouth. A long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. That figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it, a simple phrase, but said it in a way only a madman could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream. That's what sent him at me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around, tried to knock him off me. That's when my dad busted in. The man threw the knife. It went to my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off if one of the neighbors had alerted the police. They drove into the parking lot and ran toward the door. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash, like glass breaking. As it came out of my room, I saw the window that was pointing toward the back of my house was broken. I looked out it to see him vanish into the distance. I could tell you one thing. I will never forget that face. Those cold, evil eyes and that psychotic smile. They will never leave my head. Police are still on the look for this man. If you see anyone that fits the description in the story, please contact your local police department. Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a promotion at work, and they thought it would be best to live in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his brother Liu couldn't complain, though. A new better house? What was not to love? As they were getting unpacked, one their neighbors came by. "Hello," she said. "I'm Barbara. I live across the street from you. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself and to introduce my son." She turns around and calls her son over. "Billy, these are our new neighbors." Billy said hi and ran back to play in his yard. "Well," said Jeff's mom, "I'm Margaret, and this is my husband Peter and my two sons, Jeff and Liu." They each introduced themselves, and then Barbara invited them to her son's birthday. Jeff and his brother were about to eject when their mother said that they would love to. When Jeff and his family were done packing, Jeff went up to his mom. "Mom, why would you invite us to some kid's party? If you haven't noticed, I'm not some kid. Not some dumb kid." "Jeff, we just moved here." "Jeff," said his mother, "we just moved here. We should show that we want to spend time with our neighbors. Now, we're going to that party, and that's final." Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything. When his mom said something, it was final. 1 minute, guys, while I catch my breath and text my friend. He walked up to his room and plopped down on the bed. He sat there looking at his ceiling when suddenly he got a weird feeling. Not so much pain, but a weird feeling. He dismissed it as just some random thing. He heard his mother called him down to get stuff, and he walked down to get it. The next day, Jeff walked downstairs to get breakfast and get ready for school. As he sat there eating his breakfast, he once again got the feeling. This time it was stronger. It gave him a slight tugging pain, but he once again dismissed it. As he and Liu finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. They sat there waiting for the bus. Then, all of a sudden, some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They both jumped back in surprise. "Hey, what the hell?" The kid landed and turned back to them. He kicked his skateboard up and caught it with his hands. The kid seemed to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. He was an Aeropostale shirt and wet black blue jeans, trying to be cool, if you know what I mean, people. Well, it looks like we got some baby." Suddenly, 2 other kids appeared. One was super skinny and the other was huge. "Well, since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Over there's Keith." Jeff and Leo looked over to the skinny kid. He had a dopey face that you would expect a sidekick to have. "And he's Troy." They looked over at the fat kid. Talk about a tub of lard. This kid looked like he hasn't exercised since he was crawling. Maybe about 500 pounds. "And I," said the first kid, "am Randy. Now, for all the kids in this neighborhood, there's a small prize for bus fare, if you catch my drift." Liu stood up, ready to punch the light out of the kid's eyes when one of the friends put a knife on him. "I hoped you would be more cooperative, but it seems we must do this the hard way." Give me a minute, people. I'm telling my friend what story I'm on. The kid walked up to Liu and took his wallet out of his pocket. Jeff got the feeling again. Now it was truly strong, a burning sensation. He stood up, but Liu gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him and walked up to the kid. "Listen here, you little punk. Give back my bro's wallet, or else." Randy put the wallet in his pocket and pulled out his own knife. "Oh, and what will you do?" Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose. As Randy reached for his face, Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. Randy screamed, and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand. Troy and Keith rushed Jeff, but Jeff was too quick. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the ground, screaming. Troy rushed him too, but Jeff didn't even need the knife. He just punched Troy straight in the stomach, and Troy went down. As he fell, he puked all over. Liu could do nothing but look in amazement at Jeff. Jeff, how'd you... That was all he said. They saw the bus coming and knew they'd be blamed for the whole thing. So they started running as fast as they could. As they ran, they looked back and saw the bus driver rushing over to Randy and the others. And as Jeff and Leo made it to school, they didn't dare tell what happened. All they did was sit and listen. Leo just thought of that as his brother beating up a few kids. But Jeff knew it was more. It was something scary, as he got the feeling he felt how powerful it was. The urge to just hurt someone. He didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help feeling happy. He felt this strange feeling go away and stay away for the entire day at school. Even as he walked home due to the whole thing near the bus stop. And how now he probably wouldn't be taking the bus anymore. He felt happy. When he got home, his parents asked him how his day was, and he said in a somewhat ominous voice, "It was a wonderful day." Next morning, he heard a knock at his front door. He walked down to find 2 police officers at the door. His mother looking back at him with an angry look. "Jeff, these officers tell me that you attacked 3 kids. That wasn't regular fighting, and that they were stabbed." "Stabbed, son!" Jeff's gaze fell to the floor, showing his mother that it was true. "Mom, they were the ones who poured the knives on me and Liu." "Son," said one of the cops, "we found 3 kids, 2 stabbed, 1 having a bruise on his stomach. And we have witnesses proving that you fled the scene. Now, what does that tell us?" Jeff knew it was no use. He could say him and Liu had been attacked, but then there was no proof it was not them who attacked first. They couldn't say that they weren't flamed because, truth be told, they were. So Jeff couldn't defend him or Liu. "Son, calm down your brother." Jeff couldn't do it since it was him who beat up. "Son, calm down your brother, I mean." So it was me. I was the one who beat up the kids. Liu tried to hold me back, but he couldn't stop me. "Well, kid, looks like a year in juvie." "Wait," says Liu. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their gun and knocked them on Liu. "It was me. I beat up those little marks." "Those little punks?" "Little marks? What?" Those little punks. "Here's the marks to prove it." He lifted up his sleeves to reveal cuts and bruises as if he was in a struggle. "Son, just put the knife down," said the officer. Liu held up the knife and dropped it to the ground. He put his hands up and walked over to the cops. "No, Liu, it was me. I did it." Jeff had tears running down his face. Huh. Poor bro, trying to take the blame for what I did. "Well, take me away." The police led Liu out to the car. "Liu, tell them it was me. Tell them I was the one who beat up those kids." Jeff's mother put her hands on his shoulders. "Jeff, please, you don't have to lie. We know it's Liu. You can stop." Jeff watched helplessly as the cop car speeds off with Liu inside. A few minutes later, Jeff's dad pulled into the driveway, seeing Jeff's face and knowing something was wrong. Son, what is it?" Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained from crying. Instead, Jeff's mother walked his father inside to break the bad news to him as Jeff wept in the driveway. About an hour or so, Jeff walked back into the house. Seeing that his parents were both shocked, sad, and disappointed, he couldn't look at them. He couldn't see how they thought of Liu when it was his fault. He just went to sleep, trying to get the whole thing off his mind. 2 days went by, and no word from Liu at JDC. No friends to hang out with, nothing but sadness and guilt. That is, until Saturday, when Jeff is woken up by his mother with a happy, sunshiny face. "Jeff, it's the day," she said as she opened the curtains and let light flow into his room. What's today?" said Jeff as he stirs awake. "Why, it's Billy's party." He was now fully awake. "Mom, you're joking, right? You don't expect me to go to some kid's party after..." Jeff We both know what happened. I think this party could be the thing that brightens up the past days. Now, get dressed. Jeff's mother walked out of the room and downstairs to get herself ready. He found himself to get up. He picked out a random shirt and a pair of jeans and walked downstairs. He saw his mother and father all dressed up, his mother in a dress and his father in a suit. He thought, why would they ever wear such fancy clothes to a kids' party? Son, is that all you're going to wear? Better than wearing too much, she said. His mother pushed down the feeling to yell at him and hit with style. Now, Jeff, we may be overdressed, but this is how you go if you want to make an impression, says father. Jeff grunted and went back up to his room. I don't have any fancy clothes, he yelled downstairs. Here's the truth. I've gone to birthday parties. I'm never dressed up nicely. Just pick out something, called his mother. He looked around in his closet for what he would call fancy. He found a pair of black dress pants he had for special occasions and undershirt. He couldn't find a shirt to go with it. He looked around and found only striped and patterned shirts, none of which would go with dress pants. Finally, he found a white hoodie and put it on. You're wearing that? They both said. Oh, no time to change. Let's just go, she said as she herded Jeff and his father out the door. They crossed the street over to Barbara and Billy's house. They knocked on the door, and it appeared that Barbara, just like his parents, were overdressed. As they walked inside, all Jeff could see were adults, no kids. The kids are out in the yard, Jeff. How about you go and meet some of them? Jeff walked out to a yard full of kids. They were running around in weird cowboy costumes and shooting each other with plastic guns. Are they Nerf guns? Because that's good. He might as well be standing in Toys R Us. Suddenly, a kid came up to him and handed him a toy gun and hat. Hey, wanna play? Aw, no, okay, I'm way too old for this stuff. Please, said the kid. Fine, said Jeff. He put on the hat and started to pretend to shoot at the kids. At first, he thought it was totally ridiculous, but then he started to actually have fun. It might not have been super cool, but it was the first time he had done something that took his mind off of Liu. So he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise. A weird rolling noise. Then it hit him. Randy, Troy, and Keith all jumped over the fence on their skateboard. Jeff dropped the fake gun and ripped off the hat. Randy looked at Jeff with a burning hatred. Hello, Jeff, is it? We have some unfinished business. Jeff saw his bruised nose. I think we're even. I beat the crap out of you, and you get my brother sent to JDC. Randy got an angry look in his eyes. Oh no, I don't go for even. I go for winning. You may have kicked out us that one day, but not today. As he said that, Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose, and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and headbutted him. Jeff pushed Randy off him, and both rose to their feet. Kids were screaming, and parents were running out of the house. Troy and Keith both pulled guns out of their pockets. No one interrupts or guts will fly, they said. Randy pulled a knife on Jeff and stabbed him in the shoulder. Jeff screamed and fell to his knees. Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabs his foot and twisted, causing Randy to fall to the ground. Jeff stood up and walked toward the back door. Troy grabbed him. Need some help? He picks Jeff up by the back of the collar and throws him through the patio door. As Jeff tries to stand, he is kicked down on the to the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he starts to cough up blood. Come on, Jeff! Fight me! He picks Jeff up and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka on the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head. Fight! He throws Jeff back into the living room. Come on, Jeff! Look at me! Jeff glances up, his face riddled with blood. I was the one who got your brother sent to JDC, and now you just go sit down there and ride there for her, yo? You should be ashamed. Jeff starts to get up. Oh, finally! You stand and fight. Jeff is now to his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again, he gets that strange feeling. The one in which he hasn't felt for a while. Finally, he's up, says Randy as he runs at Jeff. That's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed. All rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives him to the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight in the heart. The punch causes Randy's heart to stop. As Randy gasps for breath, Jeff hammers down on him. Punch after punch, blood gushes from Randy's body until he takes one final breath and dies. Everyone is looking at Jeff now. The parents, the crying kids, even Troy and Keith. Although they easily break from their gaze and point their guns at Jeff, Jeff sees the guns trained on him and runs for the stairs. As he runs, Troy and Keith let out fire on him, each shot missing. Jeff runs up the stairs. He hears Troy and Keith far behind. As they let out their final round of bullets, Jeff ducks to the bathroom. He grabs the towel rack and rips it off the wall. Troy and Keith race in. Knives ready. Troy swings his knife at Jeff, who backs away and bangs the towel rack into Troy's face. Troy goes down hard, and now all that's left is Keith. He's more agile than Troy, though, and ducks when Jeff swings the towel rack. He dropped the knife and grabbed Jeff by the neck. He pushed him into the wall. A thing of bleach fell down on top of him from the top shelf. It both of them, and they both started to scream. Jeff wiped his eyes as best as he could. He pulled down the towel rack and swung it straight into Keith's head. As he lay there, bleeding to death, he let out an ominous smile. "What's so funny?" asked Jeff. Jeff pulled out a lighter and switched it on. "What's funny," he said, "is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol." Jeff's eyes widened as Keith threw the lighter at him. As soon as the flame made contact with him, the flames ignited the alcohol in the vodka. While the alcohol burned him, the bleach bleached his skin. Jeff let out a terrible screech as he caught fire. He tried to roll out the fire, but it was no use. The alcohol had made him a walking inferno. He ran down the hall and fell down the stairs. Everyone started screaming as they saw Jeff. Now a man on fire dropped to the ground, nearly dead. The last thing Jeff saw was his mother and other parents trying to extinguish the flames. That's when he passed out. When Jeff woke up, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulder and stitches all over his body. He tried to stand up, but he realized that there was some tube in his arm, and when he tried to get up, it fell out, and a nurse rushed in. "I don't think you could get out of bed just yet," she said as she put him back in the bed and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat there with no vision, no idea of what his surroundings were. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother. "Honey, are you okay?" she asked. Jeff couldn't answer, though. His face was covered, and he was unable to speak. "Oh, honey, I have great news. After all the witnesses told the police that Randy confessed to trying to attack you, they decided to let you go." This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway, remembering the tube coming out of his arm. "He'll be out by tomorrow, and then you two will be able to be together again." Jeff's mother hugs Jeff and says her goodbyes. The next couple of weeks were those where Jeff was visited by his family. They came the day when his bandages were to be removed. His family was all there to see it, what it would look like. As the doctor unwrapped the bandages from Jeff's face, everyone was on the edge of the seats. They waited until the last bandage holding the cover over his face was almost removed. "Let's hope for the best," said the doctor. He quickly pulls the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face. Jeff's mother screams at the sight of his face. Leo and Jeff stared, still awestruck at his face. What happened to my face?" Jeff said. He rushed out of bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked in the mirror and saw the cause of the distress. His face. It's horrible. His lips were burnt to a deep shade of red. His face was turned into a pure white color, and his hair was singed from brown to black. He slowly put his hand to his face. It had a sort of leathery feel to it now. He looked back at his family, then back at the mirror. "Jeff," said Leo, "it's not that bad." "Not that bad," said Jeff. "It's perfect." His family was equally surprised. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hand were twitching. Jeff, are you okay?" "Okay? I've never felt more happy." "Look at me. This face goes perfectly with me." He couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it, looking at it in the mirror. What caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was finding Randy, something in his mind, his sanity, snapped. Now he was left as a crazy killing machine that his parents didn't know. Doctor, is my son alright, in the head? Oh yes, his behavior is typical for patients that have taken very large amounts of painkiller. If his behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here and we'll give him a psychological test. Oh, thank you, Doctor. Jeff's mother went over to Jeff. Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go. Jeff looks away from this mirror, his face still formed in a crazy smile. "Okay, Mommy." His mother took him by the shoulder and took him to get his clothes. "This is what came in," said the lady at the desk. Jeff's mother looked down to see the black dress pants and white hoodie her son wore. Now they were clean of blood and now stitched together. Jeff's mother led him to his room and made him put his clothes on. Then they left, not knowing that that was the final day of life. Their final day of life. Later that night, Jeff's mother woke to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded like someone was crying. She slowly walked over to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife, and carved a smile into his cheek. "Jeff, what are you doing?" "I can't keep smiling, Mommy. It hurt after a while. Now I can smile forever." "Jeff, your eyes—" I couldn't see my face. I got tired and my eyes started to close. I burned out the eyelids so I could forever see myself, my new face. "What's wrong, Mommy? Aren't I beautiful?" "Yes, son. Yes, you are. Let me go get that so you can see your face." She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep. "Honey, get the gun. She stopped as she saw Jeff in the doorway holding a knife. "Mommy, you lied." Oh, geez, I got that's the last thing they hear as Jeff rushes them with the knife, getting both of them. Oh man, I'm reading it. Okay, it's just Graham just telling me he couldn't comment on the stream for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'll have to look at that real fast. Huh. Weird. I don't know why I can't. No one can comment. Weird. Sorry, Graham. I'm not sure why. His brother Liu woke up, startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shut his eyes and tried to go back to sleep. As he was on the border of slumber, he got the strangest feeling that someone was watching him. He looked up. Before Jeff covered his mouth, he slowly raised the knife, ready to plunge it into Liu. Liu thrashed there and there, here and there, trying to escape Jeff's grasp. "Shh," Jeff said. "Just go to sleep." And that, everybody, is Jeff the Killer. Jeff has finally gone insane. One of the more well-known creepypastas. The next one is called Eyeless Jack. It's about 3 minutes long. Not too long at all. But let us begin. Hello, my name is Mitch. I'm here to tell you guys about an experience I had. I don't know if it was paranormal or whatever stupid words people use to describe supernatural phenomena. But after that thing visited me, I believe in the paranormal trash now. While I'm responding to this Twitter message from Grim, I'm gonna take a drink of my Coke, cause oh man, I cannot keep calm. Replying to Graham, seeing what he said. Oh yeah, okay. A week after I moved in with my brother Edwin, after my house was foreclosed, I finished unpacking. Edwin liked the idea of me moving in, since we had not seen each other after 10 years, so I was excited too. I soon fell asleep after I moved in. After that 1 week, I heard rustling noises coming from outside at about 1 in the morning. I thought it was a raccoon, so I ignored it and tried to fall asleep. The next morning, I told everyone about it, and he agreed. The next night, however, I thought I heard my window opening with a loud thump, as if something entered my room. I darted up and looked around my room, but I saw nothing. The next morning, Edwin dropped his coffee cup when he saw me. He held up a nearby mirror and I saw myself. I had a large gash in my left cheek. After I was rushed to the hospital, my doctor told me that I must have been sleepwalking. But then he showed me something that made my blood turn cold. He lifted up my shirt to reveal a sewn up incision where my kidneys were. I stared in his eyes. God, these people cannot spell. My eyes widening. You somehow lost your left kidney last night. We don't know how though. Sorry, Mitch, my doctor told me. Mitch rhymes with bitch. The next night was my breaking point. Around midnight, I woke up to see a truly horrifying sight. I was staring face to face with a creature with a black hoodie and dark blue mask, with no nose or mouth, staring down at me. The thing that scared me the most was that it had no eyes, just empty black sockets. The creature also had some black substance dripping from its sockets. I grabbed the camera nearby on a mantle and took a picture. After the picture took, the creature lunged at me and tried to claw open my chest to get to my lungs. I stopped it by kicking it in the face. As I ran out of my room, I grabbed my wallet. I would need the money. I ran out of my brother's house into the night. I eventually ended up in the woods near Edwin's house and tripped on a rock. What? Let me put this around here. He left his brother's house, and his brother is Edwin. And he ran back to the... What? These stories don't make sense sometimes. I fell unconscious, woke up. Oh, I eventually ended up in the woods near his house. Never mind. Okay, never mind, guys. Sorry, I got confused myself. I fell unconscious and woke up in the hospital. My doctor entered the room, the same one who treated me before. I have good news and bad news, Mitch. My doctor started. The good news is that you had minor injuries and your parents are going to pick you up. The bad news is that your brother has been killed by some thing. Sorry. My parents took me back to Aaron's house to collect my remaining belongings. Which I did. Upon entering my room, I was scared, but remained calm. I grabbed my camera, then stopped dead in my tracks. In the hallway leading to my room, I saw Aaron's body and something small lying next to it. I picked up the small thing and entered my parents' car. Not mentioning Aaron's corpse, I looked at the thing I picked up and nearly vomited. I was holding my stolen half-eaten kitty with some black substance on it. This Jack. He takes your kidneys and eats them. Okay, I'm looking up why Twitch won't let him comment. We're taking a moment to get a breather. I don't know if I'll really go too long. Whatever. I don't know why nobody can comment. But it's fine. The next story is called The Motel. This and the other story I'm going to read after that will probably be the last for this stream. I don't have enough to really read enough to, or have enough time. enough energy to read every story in here. And of course, I'm alone, so it's not as much fun. The motel is about a 20-minute long story. I have not read this before, so it's gonna be fun for me. It was a cold and lonely night as I drove mile after mile on barren roads that seemed to drag on forever and lead to nowhere. I had been driving for hours since I left home and ran away from my dad's car. I don't know what I was thinking or where I am going. All I knew is I had to get away. I had to get far away from home and never turn back. After driving for another half an hour or so, I finally came across what looked like a lot of farmland and ranches. The road became more rugged and dusty. It soon became a desert. Eventually, I came across a flickering sign that read, Jack's Motel. I figured I would call it a night and get room for myself to get some rest before continuing any further on the road to nowhere. I pulled up into one of the few empty parking spots and shut the car off. Before getting out, I took a good look around and didn't see a single other car. So I wondered if anyone was even inside the motel. It did seem to be in pretty rough shape, but that wasn't going to stop me from taking shelter though for the night. I stepped out of my dad's car and took a look down the road to see if any cars would be coming from either direction. But there was nothing, no headlights, and nobody for miles besides the farm I had just passed. I shook off the feeling of lonely dread and walked up to the door of the shabby run-down motel. As soon as I grabbed the door handle, it broke off and the door slowly creaked open on its own. A chill shot down my spine as I glanced into the dark, dusty motel and coughed a few times with dust as soon as I stepped inside. I started shivering and realized it was colder inside the motel than it was outside. I looked frantically back and forth around the motel and saw stains everywhere. From the ceiling to the walls to the floor, there were rats scampering about and garbage thrown here and there. The place was obviously abandoned and not fit to stay in. I took a few more steps to the disgusting establishment and came across the front desk. There was what that dry blood splattered on the desk and the walls. A painfully putrid aroma arose, and I started choking and coughing. Go stick. I covered my mouth and nose with my coat and started jogging toward the front door. I felt like I shouldn't be there, like the place didn't want me there. And that smell, it was like something burning, like flesh and the blood. I collapsed on the floor, coughing more because of the dense fog of dust and the rank smell emanating from the foul building. I couldn't take it anymore. I held my breath and stood up. I was dizzy. I couldn't see straight. I felt like I was about to pass out. I slapped myself and tried to make it to the door, but I froze. I stood there staring out the door into the night sky, frozen, as I felt hot breath on my neck. I heard a snapping sound and then a growl. I didn't want to know what it was. I just wanted to run for the door, but I couldn't move. And just as I was about to turn my head to see what was behind me, the front door slammed shut, leaving me in total darkness. The sound the door made as it slammed echoed through the building, and its walls shook for a moment. Then everything fell silent, everything except for my accelerated heartbeat and frantic breathing. I could not see a damn thing. I tried to calm my breath down by taking in 3 deep breaths through my nose. But it didn't help much. I reached my right hand into my pants pocket and dug my iPhone out of there. I quickly turned the phone on, got past my passcode, and turned on the flashlight app. The phone's flashlight was very helpful, since it only gave me enough light to see 2 feet in front of me, but it was good enough. I went to the front door and started banging on it, but it was no use. There's no doorknob now, and it just wouldn't budge. The thought crossed my mind that maybe whatever was here actually wanted me to stay, rather than to leave, as I previously thought. Another chill ran down my spine, thinking about it, so I shook my head and slapped myself a few times to make sure I was not dreaming. Of course I wasn't. Using the phone's small light, I made my way back to the front desk and covered my mouth and nose, using the neck of my shirt so I wouldn't choke on the rancid smell again. I searched around the desk looking for a key or anything useful, but all I could find was shattered glass and more bloodstains. Just what the hell happened to this place? And why did I have to come in here? A creeping sense of paranoia came over me as the thoughts crossed my mind. I had to find a way out of this place. Walking across the wall, since the phone's light could only illuminate so much and was pretty much useless, I came across the door. Room 101. The door would not open, and I still haven't seen any keys around. As I continued tracing the wall all the way around the lobby, I came to understand that there were 6 rooms in the lobby, with the front desk, and that was it. A bit small for a motel, but then again, I had no idea where I was or even what state I was in. The state of confusion and paranoia? I jumped suddenly when I heard a scratching sound and rustling, only to realize there was just more rats digging through the bag of garbage in the corner. A bag of garbage in the corner. I walked back over to the front desk and went behind it to look around a little more. I got on my knees and waved the phone around as I looked for something that could be of use. But there was nothing, until finally I spotted a small red switch on the hinge side of the front desk. I pressed it gingerly and gasped as a door hidden in the wall opened up to my right. I stood up and crept over to the open door and inspected it, taking in how well it was designed and hidden within the wall. I shone my light into the newly opened area, and it was a hallway, so I went ahead inside and slowly made my way down the dark hall. It wasn't any brighter or better smelling in here, but the walls were tight. The saying go, it could make anyone feel claustrophobic. Only there. But I treaded on anyway, moving my phone's light back and forth, scanning the walls. At least there weren't any stains on the green wallpaper that hid the walls of this narrow corridor. Let me get a drink. After walking down the hall for a few minutes, I turned to look back at the way I came in, but I couldn't see anything behind me but blackness, so I just kept heading forward into the darkness. Ever so often I heard the drip-drop of water or a creak of old rusty pipes, but behind that, it was just silent and still. My heartbeat had calmed down a bit, but my eyes still frantically scanned everything in every direction, hoping that I would find a key or something. Anything. Well, I got my wish. I started walking, and a lump formed in my throat as I stood before a big, rusty metal door that was at the end of the hall. There was a button to the left of it, so I pushed it. The door slid open slowly. The scratching noise it made was as bad as nails on a chalkboard. Once it finally opened, I peeked inside and realized there was an elevator. So I figured I might as well see where it goes, and I stepped into it. It moved and swung slightly as I stepped aboard. It must be old enough in proper working condition. But I didn't care. I had no choice. Nowhere else to go. I waved my phone light around until I spotted the panel of buttons for each floor. There was one, which I guess is the floor I'm on, the ground floor. Then there was a B1 and B2. 2 basement floors for a motel? Sure, why not? What's the worst that could happen? I pressed B1 and the door squealed shut. The elevator started moving downwards. It made so much rattling and squealing noise that I had to cover my ears as I descended down into the unknown darkness that lay below. Okay, that's chapter 1, and I'm looking... 5... Oh, there's 5 chapters! Oh, yay! And they're all long and boring. Okay, I promised you already get through this. Chapter 2. The elevator finally reached the first basement floor and came to a sudden stop. The door squealed open. I, of course, was slowly covering my ears and had my eyes closed till I heard the silence again. I slowly let my hands down from my ears and opened my eyes to see what new darkness lay before me. I saw nothing but blackness, except for a glowing, pulsating red door that was about 20 feet from where the elevator was straight ahead. That's the door to hell, people! I stepped out into the dark void and moved my light around to see if I could illuminate anything in the room. But there was nothing there. The darkness seemed to stretch on for eternity, there was nothing but the red, infernal door to hell. I had no choice but to check it out. So I slowly crept toward the door, tiptoeing, trying to make as little noise as possible in hopes that nothing would jump out at me, like Cerberus or something. I reached the door and was hesitant to reach my hand for the handle, so I took a deep breath first and rested my hand on the mirror of the door. It was warm, but not hot. The warmth was strangely comforting. But what happened next was entirely discomforting. I slowly moved my hand toward the red door and pressed my ear against it for a brief moment. And what I heard shocked me beyond belief. I stumbled away from the door and fell onto my back, and then started crawling away from it frantically. I had to get away from it. I got to my feet and burrowed to the elevator. I crashed inside it and sat down. I buried my face to my knees and desperately tried to hold back the tears that were welling up in my eyes because I'm such a little sissy. I sat there shivering, panting, panicking for a few minutes. I finally caught my breath and calmed down a bit, then stood up and frantically mashed the B2 button. I'd rather hear the screeching elevator than what I heard behind that door. The sounds emanating from the wretched door were like thousands of voices screaming, tortured voices, yelling in agony and pain as they were burning in hell. That's all I could picture in my head when I heard it. Told you guys it was the door to hell. We found the door to hell. Jack's Motel. I shook my head and snapped myself again, telling myself it was all a dream and that I would wake up from this nightmare soon. But I knew better. The elevator screeched and squealed as it took me down deeper into this hellhole. I really did not want to see what was down on the next floor, but I really had no choice. The elevator stopped when it reached its destination. My final destination. 10. And when the door opened, I nearly puked my lungs up at what I saw. There's no B2 or even a B1. There's nothing but that damn door, that red, burning, screaming, pulsating door that was just there in the darkness. I had no way out. The only way left to go was in, into the hell that was behind that door. And that, for some reason, was hidden beneath this cursed motel. I closed my eyes and took 3 deep breaths that then made my way across the darkness and towards the bloody blazing door. I started feeling angry, frustrated that I ended up in this situation. I was pissed at my family, that's why I left home. And now I'm pissed off at this motel for being so fucked up. I was only like 7. I grabbed the door handle and threw the door open and rushed inside, screaming my head off. Get away from me, you stupid fucking demon. Screw this place and fuck all this crazy bullshit. I just want to be alone in peace and quiet. Man, that's a lot I had to just say. Jeez. I had my eyes closed as I entered the door, screaming, and was afraid to open my eyes. But when I heard the sound of people talking, the rustling of shoes on a wood floor, and the creak of loose wood floorboards, I quickly flipped my eyelids open and stood there with my mouth agape as I saw where I was now. It was the motel. I had just come in through the front door. There were 2 people at the front desk waiting to get a key from the rooms they were in. I slowly walked forward toward the front desk and gazed back and forth, looking at the clean, fresh, and new motel. It looked like it had just opened. There were no stains, no blood, or trash, or rats. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I got in line and waited until the other people got their keys and went to their rooms. The man at the front desk was tall and slender. He had greasy, slick black hair and a short mustache. He wore a crooked style hat on a nice red suit and a black tie. Is this Jeff the Killer's day job? How can I help you, sir? He asked in a casual tone. I'll take a key to a room, I guess? I sounded nervous. I said nervously and sounded unsure. I was unsure of anything at this point. Of course. He turned around and grabbed the last key that was available. Here you are. Room 106. That'll be $10 for a night's stay. Actually, that's not bad. This is back in time, I'm pretty sure, but still. Oh, stretch my leg. Okay. He held out his hand with the key in it and took in the other to take my money. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my wallet and then handed the man a $20 bill. He took it with a grin and said, "Please enjoy your stay." Please Enjoy your stay, he said in a menacing tone and chuckled afterwards. Then he walked away and disappeared from sight into the bathroom because he had to take a mighty shit. I lifted the key in my hand with a red tab that read 106. I took a look to the left, then the right, and found that the room was the last one on the right, next to where that the secret passage was. I walked over to the room and opened the door with the key, then quickly entered and shut the door behind me. I looked around the room and was astonished at how clean and orderly it was. I searched around the room for any clues about what the hell was going on, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary or anything helpful. Until I checked the drawers of the nightstand next to bed, that is. There was a nice crisp newspaper in the top drawer. I pulled it out and gasped when I read the title of the article. Serial killer on the loose in outskirts of Nevada, asking people to just go to sleep. I blinked a few times and stared at the newspaper for a few moments. So I made it from Florida all the way to Nevada? Damn, what a drive. Let's see this. Let's see. 2. Because I'm pretty sure that's a long-ass distance. That is 41 hours, people. Yeah! The article went on about missing people and victims of the serial killer. No lead on his identity or anything much more about the whole thing, but then I saw what the end of the paper was, and nearly had a heart attack. Somehow, someway, I was back in 1969. Time travel indoor, knew it. How's this possible? Did I travel through time or something? I sat down on the bed, still holding the paper, shocked and in disbelief of how I could be back in time. After pondering and wondering for a few minutes, I got up, took the newspaper into my pants. Why? Then exited the room and walked around the motel lobby inspecting it, looking around for any signs as to how it could be possible to have gone back in time. But of course, I couldn't find anything helpful. I looked outside through the window and gazed at the starry night sky. I figured I would just get some rest and look around more for answers tomorrow. So I went back to my room and opened the door, glancing at the front desk before entering. It seemed strange that the guy from the front desk wasn't staying there now and nowhere in sight. I wondered if he had gone through the secret passageway, but I didn't want to think about it anymore right now. I just needed to get some sleep. I walked into my room, closing the door behind me gently. I took the newspaper and set it on the nightstand, then leaped onto the bed and sunk right into it. I nearly passed out as soon as my eyes shut. I was awoken at 2:13 a.m. by the sound of a woman shrieking. Ah! Oh god, that was not good. That was more of a velociraptor. It was a blood-curdling scream of panic and fear, but then everything fell silent again. I sat up in bed and listened carefully for a moment, but heard nothing more. I shook it off and thought maybe it was just some girl screaming outside being chased by a coyote or armadillo, what? Or something. The thought made me giggle a little, but then I yawned and laid my head back down, closing my eyes once again, drifting into slumber. A few minutes later, before I was fully asleep, I heard my door creak open. I didn't want to open my eyes to look, so I stayed laying in bed pretending to be asleep. A man approached me, and once reaching the bed, he leapt on top of me, covering my mouth with a rag that I suppose was drugged. I felt woozy and dazed and could not struggle or fight him, nor could I scream for help. He threw the blankets off me and shredded my clothes off me piece by piece. He tossed aside the rag since I was already drugged enough, placed a ball gag in my mouth. Whoa! Whoa, this is getting really sexual. I was so frightened that I should have been trembling and sobbing, but I couldn't do anything. I was frozen in terror and could only watch the man have his way with me. For a moment, my vision became clear and I got a good glimpse of the man's face. It was the guy at the front desk who gave me the key to the room, the owner of the motel. He was nude and rubbing his erect penis against me, ready to rape me. In one hand, he held a large knife. He flipped me onto my stomach and plunged his penis into my hindquarters. Thankfully, I could not feel a thing, but still, the whole thing was just too much, just too wrong, and way too gay. But then he struck the knife into my back several times while still molesting me. I felt nothing but agony, so much sharp pain that I managed to let out a terrified scream through the ball gag that easily would have woken everyone else in the establishment, and that's when he pressed the cold-blooded knife against my throat and sliced it open. I woke instantly at that moment, gasping for breath, panting like a dog, sweating profusely. I looked at my hands, then checked my throat and my back to make sure I was alright. There were no cuts, no blood, nothing ever happened, I thought. How could that have been a dream? But I soon had my answer when I turned my head and once again was face to face with the wretched red door. I stood up and looked into the empty darkness. Seeing nothing but the red door, I shook my head and tried to make sense of it all, but I couldn't. After a few minutes pacing back and forth in front of the door, I came to the conclusion. So the serial killer the newspapers mentioned was this motel's owner, and I was his next victim. But if that was the past I just had a glimpse at, I must have been seeing it through someone else's eyes. I continued pacing and scratching my head, thinking about it more, still in shock that I experienced being raped and murdered. But I was glad it was all a vision that this horrid door that we see. I had nowhere else to go but to enter the hell behind that door again. Jeez! This is not a very nice stream. We've had an hour into this. I'm glad the next one is just an urban legend, but gosh. How long is chapter 3 before chapter 4? Is it long? Okay, it's not as long. And chapter 4 to chapter 5 is not so long. And okay, yeah, these last 3 are not as long. Chapter 3. I took a few deep breaths, then reached my hand out to grab the door's handle, but I hesitated. I really did not want to see what was going on behind the door next. But I had no other option. I gripped the handle firmly and swung the door open. I gazed aside and saw pure white. No shapes, no figures, no shadows, just empty white, the end of the world. I figured that would be a nice change from empty black, so I sighed as I stepped inside, but as I expected, the white suddenly faded, and now I was somewhere else. I heard distant screaming and pounding in every direction. I looked around and saw cages, cells lining the walls going down for what looked like miles. There were what looked like people inside the cells, but they were mangled, twisted, contoured beyond belief. One to my right slammed its eyeless face through the bars of its cell and scratched at me. Green ooze dripped from its mouth as it chewed at the bars with its jagged teeth. Trying to escape, I presumed. I backed away slowly and gulped down the walls of saliva forming in my throat. Then, to my surprise, a pair of hands wrapped around my shoulders and pulled me into the balls of the cell up behind me. The creature holding me was screaming and howling in my ears and scratching my shoulders up as it tried pulling me through the bars. I started panicking and managed to wiggle free of its grip. I decided it would be best to stay in the middle of the aisle and not get close to any of the hideous beings locked in the cages. Locked in the cells, I mean. What in God's name is this place? How could something like this even exist? I started running and just kept my eyes on the floor ahead of me. I didn't want to look at any of those wretched things. I just wanted to get out of there. I ran for what seemed like hours until I wore myself out and collapsed. Gasping for air on my knees, heavily breathing, one of the creatures from the cell to my left reached out a long, bony finger through the bars and pointed at me. Then it spoke in a low, gnawed, feminine voice. Flesh! Give me your flesh, mortal! Dobby wants flesh! It hissed and screeched. Now the others around started wailing and slamming the bars. They all wanted me, my flesh. I scrambled to my feet and started sprinting again. After another few minutes of running, I saw what looked like a big black door at the end of the hall. I cracked a smile, thinking it would be my way out, but I soon found out that I was mistaken. Just making sure I'm still streaming, guys, because... As soon as I reached the door, I grabbed the big metal handle, turned it, and threw the door open, then ran out inside without even looking into the room first. The door slammed itself behind me, and everything fell silent. The screaming and pounding stopped finally, but I was in total darkness again. Suddenly, a bright white light above me blinked on, nearly blinding me. Next thing I knew, I was laying on a steel table strapped to it. This looked familiar. The big light aimed at me, laying on a mirror table, strapped at my wrists and ankles. Where have I seen this before? Oh yeah, I was gonna get probed for like the 10th time this month. Suddenly, I could hear a voice around me mumbling. A man in a blue outfit with a surgical mask over his face approached me out of the darkness. Shall we begin? As he said this, numerous other doctors surrounded me, putting on latex gloves, about to perform surgery on me. Wait, what's going on here? I became frantic and started yelling and screaming, trying to get away, but I was bound. One doctor pulled out a large needle and injected it into my arm. It stung like a bee. I screamed louder, but the injection quickly took effect and became tired. I drifted into a trance-like state before blacking out completely. Before my eyes shut, I saw a dark black figure standing behind one of the doctors. It had horns on its head and fire in its eyes. I ran unconscious. Welcome to hell, everybody. Chapter 4. I woke in an empty hallway, once again shrouded in darkness, and in complete silence. I breathed only through my nose to keep as quiet as possible as I stood up and dusted myself off. The walls of the hallway were pale gray, no texture, no definition, just pale gray. They seemed to stretch on forever ahead of me, and there was a blank wall behind me. So I started treading down the hall softly, staying as quiet as I could, making sure I could hear if anything was going to come at me. As I continued walking down the blank gray halls, I noticed things began to change. The walls slowly were gaining texture, though it looked pixelated at first, but as I continued onward, they became more solid and lifelike. They stayed gray but became faded and rustic with brown spots of rust and grime here and there. I gulped the wad of saliva forming in my mouth down and continued quietly, making my way through the endless, ever-changing hallway. The further I went down the hall, the more gruesome it became. The gray became taken over by rust. The walls getting more musty, brown, and dusty the farther I went. I started noticing things changing more. That the walls were warping and no longer straight, and the floor became crooked and curving. The walls were pure rust and pieces of rust reflecting off the ceiling, some landing in my hair. The air became so thick and dusty, I started coughing, choking and coughing. Do I have any? No, I'm the only person logged on that's viewing. Okay. I had to cover my mouth and nose with my shirt, which seemed to help a bit. I became dizzy, trying to focus and navigate through the twisting, rusty halls, but became increasingly difficult. The walls were curved and bending. The ceiling seemed to dip down in spots, making me have to crouch. The floor shifted in spots where I would step, so I would end up bouncing from wall to wall until I got straight again. I began panicking. My heart was racing. I could barely breathe, so I started running. I ran down the twisted path the best I could, but it wasn't easy staying stable. I stumbled a few times, but kept going. I noticed the walls and floor began to strain out, and suddenly I was once again in a straight, normal hallway. But the walls were still complete rust, and the hall still seemed to stretch on for an eternity. As I continued walking, I let my shirt down and took in some refreshing deep breaths, which helped calm my nerves. But it didn't last long. The walls began oozing blood. It dripped down from the edges where the ceiling met the walls. I started running again. I needed to get out of there. I kept looking back and forth from wall to wall as I ran. More and more blood poured down the walls, turning them into solid waterfalls of blood. Yet the floor did not accumulate any and stayed solid. Without even noticing, I ran into, I ran, without even noticing, I reached the end of the hall and slammed right into a dead end. I was paying so much attention to the changing walls that I had been looking straight ahead. I fell back and landed on my ass with a thud. Oof! Ow, damn it! I shook my head and then got to my feet and rubbed my cheeks to make sure my hip was still intact. I turned around and saw that there was another wall from where I come from. I was boxed in, walls on each side of me. They seemed to close in on me, and I became frantic. No, this can't be happening! I pounded on the wall, screaming as the box I was in slowly shrank. It became tighter and tighter. It got so hard to breathe. My vision blurred and I collapsed to my knees, then blacked out once again. I woke suddenly, still in a panic. I checked every part of my body to make sure I was still alive, and pinched myself a couple times. I was okay, so I stood up, took in some deep breaths, and tried to calm myself down, keeping my eyes shut because I didn't want to see any more of the nightmare I was experiencing. I finally calmed down and gathered the courage to open my eyes, then gasped and shuddered when I saw where I was. It was where I started, the blank, gray, never-ending hallway. I was so frustrated that I slammed my fist to the wall. But my hand just bounced back and didn't even put a dent in the wall. Just left me with aching, bruised knuckles. I sighed and started once again walking down the bleak, gray hall of despair. I was losing hope, losing the will to go forth, but I had only one choice. I had to keep moving and find the end of this damn nightmare. Chapter 5. The walls stayed the same gray and never seemed to change this time, no matter how far I walked. Eventually, I could see a wall at the end of the hall, a dead end. Before even reaching the end of the hall, I decided to turn around and start heading back the way I came. Maybe that was all I needed to do, I wondered, but I was quickly met with another dead end wall. The hall was still changing, but in a different way. I turned around and started jogging back down the other way and hit another wall. I continued this for a good 10 minutes, running back and forth from wall to wall. The hall was continuously becoming shorter and thinner until eventually the hall was so narrow I could barely fit in it, and the hall was only about 20 feet long. I stood at one end of the hall, backed up against the wall, staring down at the other end. I silenced my breathing for a moment and listened closely. I could hear a distant buzzing sound, like a roaring of a machine or something. I stayed still and listened as the noise seemed to grow louder and closer every second. I heard a few thuds in the mix, and the buzzing became louder and closer, like a swarm of flies coming toward me. At the other end of the hall, an image of a pitch-black face appeared, with empty eyes and a hole for its mouth. I could see the gray wall behind the flame black face through the eye holes and mouth, but the rest of it was just solid black. I began panting, my heart pounding in my chest. The face just hovered there as the noise grew louder and louder, making my face cringe. It became so deafening. The face screeched and flew right at me from across the hall. It passed right through me, and it felt like it ripped my soul right out of me. I was shrouded in total darkness and blacked out again. I opened my eyes and blinked a few times. Looking up at the white ceiling of my room, I felt the warm blankets over me and the sweat leaking from my pores. The bed was soaked and I felt nauseous. I threw the blankets off and sat up in a daze. My head hurt like a drill had just been run through my skull. But I shook it off and looked around my room confused for a moment. Then it all came to me. My room. I'm in my bed. I'm home. I got up from the bed and smelled the fresh smell of eggs and bacon being cooked for breakfast, my dad's usual. I checked everything in my room, making sure it was all there and that was real. Then I pinched myself and screwed when I did. I was back. I was home and all right. It was all just a stupid dream, a nightmare. Yet, why when I pinched myself in the dream had I not woke up? I felt it in my dream, and everything there seemed so real. Was that even real? Was it really over? I ran downstairs and through the living room and stormed into the kitchen, finding my dad and their sister there eating breakfast. I smiled and heard my dad tired than I ever had, almost making him choke on the eggs in his mouth. Gah! Gee, son, what's gone into you? I didn't answer and went over to my sister, doing the same to her, kissed her forehead. It's finally over. I'm finally back home. What the heck are you going on about, son? Nothing, Dad. I just had one hell of a nightmare, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm all right now. I sat in the empty chair at the table and joined them for breakfast. So in the end, what I experienced was nothing more than a dream. But I've never had such a strange, surreal, and vivid dream ever before. Maybe my subconscious traveled somewhere, something someone experienced was shown to me in my dream. Whatever it was, I was just glad it was over. As the days went by, more and more of the nightmare faded from my memory, and I continued my everyday life as normal. The one thing that never left my mind, though, was the motel, the owner, and how he raped and killed me. It was all too real, and I just couldn't shake it off. At first, I could never fall asleep. I just stare at my ceiling and wait for monsters to come out of the darkness to eat me. But they never do. My dad had me start taking Z-Quil and other sleep meds, but it didn't help much. I'll never have another sound night's rest after that dream. Okay, then. Interesting. It's a terrible story, people. It's not really good. It's just kind of... Yeah, I give it a 1.5 out of 10. It had elements. I mean, it started off kind of long and it went on and on for a long time, but fixed the grammar, edit the story a bit. It could work out very well if, you just... I mean, the rape scene was unneeded. He could have just come in and murdered. That would have made it much better. Anyway, the final one we're doing is the urban legend, The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. A married couple were going out for the evening and called in a teenage babysitter to take care of the 3 children. When she arrived, they told her they probably wouldn't be back till late and that the kids were already asleep, so she didn't disturb them. The babysitter starts doing her homework while waiting a call from her boyfriend. After a while, the phone rings. She answers it, but here's no one on the other end. Just silence, then whoever it is hangs up. After a few more minutes, the phone rings again. She answers, and this time, there's a man on the line who says in a chilling voice, "Have you checked the children?" Click. At first, she thinks it might have been the father calling out to check on it up, and he got interrupted, so she decides to ignore it. She goes to her room for work, and the phone rings again. "Have you checked the children?" says the creepy voice on the other end. "Mr. Murphy," she asks, but the caller hangs up again. She decides to phone the restaurant where the parents said they'd be dining, but when she asks for Mr. Murphy, she's told that he and his wife had left the restaurant 45 minutes earlier. So she calls the police and reports that a stranger has been calling her and hanging up. "Has he threatened you?" the dispatcher asks. "No," she says. "Well, there's nothing we can really do about it. You should try reporting the prank caller to the phone company." A few minutes go by and she gets another call. "Why haven't you checked the children?" the voice says. "Who is this?" she asks, but he hangs up again. She dials 911 and says, "I'm scared. I know he's out there. He's watching me. Have you seen him?" "No." "Well, there isn't much we can do about it." The babysitter goes into panic mode and pleads with him to help her. Now, it'll be okay," he says. "Give me the number and street address. If you can keep this guy on the phone for at least a minute, we'll try to trace the call." "What was your name again?" "Linda." "Okay, Linda. If he calls back, we'll do our best to trace the call, but just keep calm. Can you do that for me?" "Yes," she says and hangs up. She decides to turn the lights down so she can see if anyone's outside, and that's when she gets another call. "It's me. Why did you turn the lights down? Can you see me?" "Yes," he says after a long pause. "Look, you've scared me. I'm shaking. Are you happy? Is that what you wanted?" "No." "Then what do you want?" "Your blood." "All over me." She slams the phone down, terrified. Almost immediately, it rings again. "Leave me alone," she screams, but it's the dispatcher calling back. His voice is urgent. Linda, we've traced the car. We've traced that car. It's coming from another room inside the house. Get out of there. Now! She tails to the front door, attempting to unlock it and dash aside, only to find the chain at the top still latched. In the time it takes her to unhook it, she sees a door open at the top of the stair. Light streams from the children's bedroom, revealing the profile of a man standing just inside. She finally gets the door open and bursts outside, only to find a cop standing on the doorstep with his gun drawn. At this point, she's safe, of course, but when they capture the intruder and drag him downstairs in handcuffs, she sees he is covered in blood. Come to find out, all 3 children have all been murdered. Now, let's get to the analysis of this one to end it off. Teenagers have been scaring each other with this urban legend since the late 1960s, although most people nowadays are more familiar as the plot of the 1979 horror film When Stranger Calls, or the 2006 remake of the same title. It is not based on real-life incidents as far as anyone knows, and the scenario is plausible enough to give goosebumps to anyone with a sense of what it's like to be young and inexperienced and alone in a big house caring for someone else's children. The most frightening aspect of this legend is that the babysitter is not in control at any time. The caller multiplies the anxiety that the babysitter is only feeling in the responsible person in the household. The possibility that this could actually happen is never far from the mind of any babysitter. Never mind the unlikelihood the police would be able to trace a phone call that lasted no more than 20 seconds at most, or that an officer could be dispatched at the house so quickly. Albeit framed as a cautionary tale, the main purpose of this story is to frighten us, not give us actionable information. They're still going around some 40 years later as a testament to how successfully it accomplishes its goal. So that was all the stories, guys. And we've been recording for an hour and 21 minutes. You guys are probably tired of this freaking background, and I'm tired as well, even though it's like 7:21. So I'm gonna end the stream here, make some food because now I'm actually hungry, and just kind of lay back, relax, because my back is hurting like hell. So until the next stream that either Graham does that minute or that I do with Graham in it, I'm out for now. Stay calm, and remember, go to sleep.